Welcome to The Pulse with Lauren Bango, a DLL podcast series. This is your place for tips, trends, and insights into the world of healthcare finance. Now, here's Lauren.
Welcome back. I am joined today by Jeff Begley. Jeff sits alongside of me in the healthcare program management team. Welcome, Jeff.
Hi, Lauren. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, Jeff is here to chat about the dental industry and some trends we've been seeing. But before we dive in, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure, happy to. I have been with DLL going on, I guess it's like 16 years now. The last 8 have been within the healthcare sales commercial side, as Lauren mentioned, as a program manager. Prior to that, I was on the sales operations side, and even prior to that, I was in customer service.
Awesome.
So yeah,
You've
so I
seen it
feel
all.
like I have like that partner experience, and I also have a good sense of kind of like the end user experience a little bit there. So best of both worlds, right?
That's great. So let's dive into the reason we're here. Let's talk about the dental industry. Tell me a little bit about the trends you're seeing in the market.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say we are in the digital era in the dental industry right now. We're seeing more and more, dental clinics adopting digital technologies. Dental practices are increasingly acquiring what we call like the intraoral scanners, or known as like an IOS. Those provide the 3D digital impressions to replace, that old analog impression that many folks may remember.
Oh, I remember that when you had to bite down on that squishy mouthpiece.
Yes, and
Yeah,
and Lauren,
that's
you won't believe
awful.
this, but I still have one of those
Do
from
you
years and
really?
years ago. And
That's
it looks
awesome.
terrible, and I hate looking at it, but I've never thrown it away. So,
That's hysterical.
Yep.
Well, thank goodness that we're moving away from that now.
Exactly. Beyond iOS, I think, we're starting to see more and more adoption of like the 3D digital printing, which is pretty awesome. Like if you think about, a 3D digital printer, dental practices are now starting to kind of acquire those to do that printing for prosthetics on their own.
So they can print teeth?
Exactly. Yep. Print
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
prosthetics, crowns, and it's pretty awesome technology, and of course it's saving them a boatload of money as opposed to farming that out to third parties.
Well, and I assume it would also shorten that turnaround time to get, when you're waiting because you take the impression, then you've got to wait for the lab to make your tooth and then yada yada yada. So I'm guessing
Exactly.
the patient experience is amazing too.
Absolutely. I mean, going back to the iOS and also, of course, the 3D printing, but the idea there is that these digital solutions can increase both the patient experience and the efficiency for the practice. I mean, like, think about how much better of an experience that intraoral scanner is sitting in the chair, instead of the old impression mold we used to bite into, and the speed of which the results are obtained, that contributes to the experience for both the customer and the dentist, because it reduces the time in the chair, right? So it's like, the customer's happy because they're not sitting there,
Yeah, who wants
biting
to
into
stay
their
at the
molds,
dentist?
and the dentist can turn the customer around, and they can get someone else in the chair much quicker with this technology.
That's a win-win.
So yeah, absolutely, and I think I read, as recently as like 30 to 35% of practices are using these iOS machines now, and with multiple continued growth expected. So it's the technology is there and expected to continue.
Wow. So, when I think about this, if I'm choosing a new dentist, I'm going to want one with all of this new technology. But what about consolidation? So I know consolidation was really big a few years ago. Are you still seeing a lot of that in the space? And if so, what do you think is driving it?
Yeah, definitely still seeing it in the space. we continue to see like the smaller practices and even larger dental groups kind of being acquired by what's known as a dental service organization, sometimes also called a dental support organization, or simply we call them DSOs. The trend is definitely expected to continue because you have more dentists out there that are just kind of struggling to manage their responsibilities, like marketing or compliance and the finance, just kind of the day-to-day operations of
the business
the
side
practice.
of the practice.
Exactly. Totally right. And, and DSOs come in and they help alleviate the burdens, and they, provide the economies of scale and administration efficiencies and shared resources. And, and they're a big organization that can really help to negotiate with suppliers and insurers for, the best deal possible.
Wow. So what impact does the DSO growth have on, purchasing trends or financing trends?
Yeah, it's across the board, and I'll say that we note DSO has been kind of the same as the next, which is why it's important, to get us involved in the process when talking with DSOs. But one of the trends I think we're seeing lately and with over the last couple of years is just there's a increase in the number of FMV deals, the fair market value deals that are happening in the space, and that's really because DSOs are either backed by private equity and they're looking to maximize the value and lower that monthly payment. So the fair market value option gives them the lowest payment possible. And then at the end of the term, the customer gets to kind of defer the decision of ownership until at that time. So again,
So they can still own it at the end of the term, and they get that lower monthly payment.
Exactly right. Yep, that's right.
Awesome.
Yep.
So any major concerns that we see happening in the industry?
Yeah, I mean it's no different from some of the other industries and verticals that we see here in the healthcare industry, and namely labor shortages for the skilled professionals like dentists and hygienists, as well as support staff. And that can lead to like reduced patient access and reduced appointment times, and can affect the quality of patient care. And and of course,
that's going against everything we just spoke about.
Exactly. And then you have reimbursement rates. That's a constant thought within the dental industry, and if those rates don't keep up, then the rising cost of running the practice will increase, and there goes the profitability, and leads to challenges in kind of investing in new equipment and technologies.
Wow. That's a lot. So, I would assume that these factors really influence the decisions that the dental practices make. We've talked about how the new technology can help them be more efficient and competitive, and patients like it better. But on the other hand, it sounds like they're dealing with, labor shortages and reimbursement rates and all of that. So, what are some ways that our vendor partners can help their customers afford new technology when maybe they don't have the money for the capital outlay?
Exactly. I mean, I think it's been said multiple times on your amazing podcast here that
thank you for listening.
that that's kind of where we're at these days. Is you definitely have some some challenges in the marketplace, but that's where we come in. And with leasing and financing, it's hey, like save your cash right now for when you need it.
Cash is king.
Cash is king, and allow us to come in and really help with offer your customer the solution that they need. We offer solutions that allow the practice to own the equipment at the end of the term, or an option to allow the customer to trade up for the latest technology every few years. It's important to get us involved early in those discussions with the customer so that we can help to determine those specific needs and customize the right financing solution for them.
Get us involved early and often. That seems to be a theme.
Yeah. And let me give you a good example. So one that we're seeing somewhat often these days and at this time of the year, While determining customer needs, we may find the customer is hesitant to start financing in 2023 due to a number of reasons that, have already been discussed in this podcast, right? Well, we can adapt to this and many customers may qualify for a short deferral period to allow them to kind of ramp up, get usage of the equipment, start, obtaining the reimbursements as they start to come in. And given where we're at in the calendar year, it's very possible for a customer to kind of take the benefit of that equipment right away when they need it, but defer payments until next year, until 2024. And by doing,
awesome.
Yeah. And by doing that, the customer wins, they get the equipment, but so does our vendor partner because they can get the order credit right away in 2023, so that's a real situation that we're kind of seeing and we're ready for it. We're prepared for it. And, it's just a matter of determining the customer needs and we can help with that. And, we can be there for the vendor and their customer.
That's awesome. That's a great real life story. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yep. So, another thing, again, I mentioned this earlier is FMV leases. It's, the industry is kind of evolving a little bit and, I should say the financing industry is evolving a little bit. And so I kind of wanted to highlight that the growing popularity of an FMV lease here, and it all has to do with technology, right? With new technology constantly evolving, we're seeing more customers take advantage of FMV leases so that they can trade up into that new equipment every few years. Allows them to offer the latest and greatest technology while also keeping the monthly payment lower than that of the typical lease to own.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it used to see ownership option and taking advantage of the Section 179 benefits have always been a driver in the space, right? But we are starting to see that shift to equipment upgrades being more important due to the ever-changing technology that we see in the market. It's the digital age, as we said, earlier, and what customer wouldn't want to, have the latest and greatest technology when it becomes available after 3, 4, 5 years?
Well, and I think we discussed previously, but even with an FMV lease, they still have the ability to own it if so be it at the end of the term they decide they want to own that piece of equipment, so they can trade it up, but they still have that option to own it as well, right?
Absolutely. At the end of the term, it's totally up to them. They can do their own kind of evaluation and determine, hey, is that next type of equipment out there ready that will help my practice, or does it make sense to buy and purchase my existing equipment? So
or they can continue to rent, right? So if it's coming and they're not quite there yet, they can also continue to rent.
They can continue to do that until they're ready to make that decision, whatever it may be. Yep.
So it just gives them that option. And that makes so much sense with the evolving technology. I can't thank you enough for being here.
Absolutely, no problem at all.
We have this what's now becoming a tradition on each of these podcasts, where I ask you for just one little nugget. What is one little thing that you would leave our listeners with, that you would suggest, whether it's about the dental industry specifically or just about financing?
Yeah, I will follow in the tradition and the trend of your prior participants on this podcast, because we really can't stress this aspect enough. And that's really just to get us involved in the process as early as possible. Maybe it sounds like a kind of a broken record, but it's true. And we have specialists that know the industry, know financing, a phone call, an email away. And we're just waiting to get involved with your customer to find out what that perfect solution may be, because we really do have that flexibility. There's all sorts of customizable solutions that we can help, offer the customer. So that's my nugget, which I'll leave, with your amazing viewers.
I love it.
Listeners.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely, Laura. My pleasure, and thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to The Pulse with Lauren Bango, a DLL podcast series. The opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the participants. Nothing herein should be construed as legal, tax, accounting, or investment advice. Join us again for the next edition of The Pulse. And thanks again for listening.